Quantum Break is a game that a lot of people have been waiting on ever since it was announced as being one of the big exclusive titles for the Xbox One, promising to introduce a kind of game that was uniquely representative of the system's motto of being an all-in-one entertainment machine, fusing elements of a video game and a TV show together. Now, this game comes from Remedy Studios, the same guys responsible for starting the Max Payne franchise and more recently Alan Wake. And Quantum Break pretty safely follows the same formula those two had, where storytelling is definitely the main focus, while gameplay mechanics take a bit of a backseat. Mechanically, the game is okay. Core gunplay, movement, and cover controls are pretty meh. Your character always feels a bit loose and doesn't always move precisely as you'd like. It's not exactly terrible, just not particularly good. Thankfully though, the game's time control elements make it a lot more fun, giving players a lot of useful powers like freezing time in a small zone, moving super fast, teleporting, or just blowing stuff up with your mind. These powers are added alongside new enemies at a pretty good pace, keeping the game from ever feeling too repetitive or stagnant and keeping players engaged. The story, however, is really where this game shines, though not without its pitfalls. The writing is solid and the overall plot of the game is good. One of its greatest strengths for me comes from its approach to using multiple perspectives. Most of the game is played from the main character's point of view, but each chapter ends with a small moment played as the game's antagonist, featuring a choice mechanic that will alter some parts of the game's plot. This not only fleshes out the overall story more, but goes a long way in making the antagonist of the game a lot more compelling and interesting, instead of just having him be that guy that you want to kill. I also really love the game's balance between what plot is given via main cutscenes and what plot you learn from reading all the different little collectible articles. There's a lot of games out there that feature this kind of method of getting plot by reading everything you find, but oftentimes they don't get the mix right and will end up punishing players for not reading everything that they find. Thankfully, Quantum Break doesn't do that. It's possible to play through the whole game never reading a thing and walk away feeling satisfied with what you know, while taking the time to read the game's various collectibles will add a lot more depth that you just wouldn't have been aware of otherwise. Now, there is one thing this game does that I'm not really a fan of, and sadly it's one of the big things that they emphasize as being a unique mechanic about it, is the TV show integration. Basically, the game is divided into 5 acts, and with each act you play through a few chapters, and then you have to sit and watch a 30-minute TV show, the details of which change a little based on things you've done and choices you've made during the gameplay bits. It's kind of an interesting idea, but also a really divisive one, and really messes with the game's pacing. It's really jarring to get used to the flow of just playing through a level, only to then be forced to sit there and watch a 30-minute show, which sure, you can skip, but then you'll be missing out on all the important plot bits. And it doesn't really help that, honestly, I didn't think the TV show was that great. The main actors did a good job, but it was really lost in the supporting actors and special effects that just weren't that good. Honestly, after watching the first 2 episodes, I found myself treating the rest of them as just background noise, listening to them to grab what plot I needed while focusing on browsing the web or playing a handheld game. While it was an interesting way to portray the game's plot outside of the main character's point of view and fleshed out a lot of the supporting cast more, it just didn't do enough for me to justify breaking up the gameplay. And honestly, I think it could have been done just as well, if not better, if it were condensed, trimmed down, and just done with in-game graphics rather than real actors. Like I said, I do think it was an interesting experiment, but in this case it just didn't really pan out, at least for me. Your mileage could vary. I could see some people that really enjoyed this, but I can see a lot more people who are just gonna get turned off by this gimmick. You know, in a lot of ways, Quantum Break reminds me of Sony's attempt at a big new next-gen exclusive with Order 1886. Both games placed an emphasis on the story, pushing the strengths of their respective console, had safe, familiar gameplay that wasn't particularly polished, and clearly tried to set up a series. The thing is that while I ended up hating Order 1886, Quantum Break feels like it actually pulled off the idea a lot better, mainly because the way it paced the gameplay kept it from getting boring. While it's a short game, it's worth at least a second playthrough just to see how some different choices affect the storyline, and most importantly, it actually resolved its main plot while still leaving a few small bits open to make a future game possible, but not an absolute necessity. The TV show aspect might turn some of you off, but for me at least, it didn't do enough harm to detract from the rest of the game, and like I said earlier, there will be some of you out there who do actually enjoy this little experimental part of it. I don't regret paying full price for this game, but for those of you out there that are a little more wary about how many hours you can get out of a game or playing something that puts more emphasis on plot over mechanics, might want to wait for a price drop or two. I'd say the game is easily worth spending at least $30 to $40 on. So those are just my thoughts on Quantum Break. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button to let me know, as well as subscribe. I do have a link posted down below in the description if you want to grab a copy of the game. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.